The views expressed on this program are those of the producers and individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Sun Prairie Media Center staff, its video service providers, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Hello and welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Jamison Rabbit, and this week I'm joined by our old friend. You know him, you love him. It's Steve Sabatke. Welcome back, sir.
I could have sworn, wasn't I just here?
It feels like it. I believe it was. Yeah, you're on like an every other week rotation.
Is
right
that
now.
what it is now?
It's a heavy rotation.
Okay,
Suddenly.
I guess give the fans what they want.
That's
exactly
it.
They asked for it, and I'm here to give them what they want.
You're that guest host on a hit sitcom who just keeps getting brought back by popular demand.
All right, great.
You've done it. All right, this week we are here to do, well, what we always do, talk about movies, good, bad, and otherwise. And we're going to get started with one of the films that was on the marquee this week. And I'm going to have you start it off, sir. What did we see?
Oh, well, it's fall, and it's directed by Scott Mann. And no, it's not about the wonderful season of autumn, although there were times that I wished that it was about that. Fall stars Grace Curry as Becky and Virginia Gardner as Hunter. They're best friends. They like to climb very, very tall objects. Becky's been in a state of depression for almost a year because of the death of her husband that occurred in a tragic climbing accident. She drinks, takes pills. She won't listen to her father, who's played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan in a very, very small role. Her best friend, Hunter, she's one of those annoying social media daredevils. She tells her that the only way to snap out of it is to climb again, and so she talks Becky into climbing a 2,000-foot decommissioned TV tower out in the middle of nowhere. What could possibly go wrong? And as they're climbing this tower, you see that it's creaky, it's rickety, it's old, it's rusty. There's a rung on the ladder that breaks off as they're climbing it. Bolts are falling out of it. And yet these two keep climbing all the way to the top. There is a level of stupidity that you have to accept in this story. And once they get to the top, and I don't think I'm giving anything away
It's
here,
right here in the
because
trailer.
it's right here in the trailer. The ladder on the tower collapses, leaving the two of them stranded on this tiny little platform, probably no bigger than the table that's in front of Jamison and I. There's no way down, no cell phone coverage. Buzzards are circling them. And most of the movie now takes place on the top of this tower. So if you have a fear of heights, I don't think this movie is for you. I've seen plenty of scenes in movies where characters are in very high places, and it didn't bother me. But this one was different. I'm getting a little queasy just seeing this on the TV again here on our monitor. I don't know how they filmed this. I'm assuming that there was no way that they could have filmed this with these two actresses having them on top of a 2,000-foot tower.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm sure
I think it's green
the
screen.
insurance company had
4
something
feet
to say
off the
about
ground.
that. Yeah, but I got to tell you, it looked very real, and it made me feel physically uncomfortable at times. I mean, I had a big bucket of popcorn, and I put it aside during most of the movie because my stomach was churning. The last time I felt this physically ill during a movie was during the Blair Witch Project because of those herky-jerky camera movements.
Yeah.
And there are times during the film where I felt I was on that tower platform.
Really? Worked for you.
Oh, it was excruciating.
I will give this film credit. I think that there's some impressive cinematography.
Yeah.
Where you really see it. I mean, this movie to me, first off, I don't like one of the two characters from the get-go. The character of Hunter,
yeah.
who is this social media obsessed, selfie stick wielding, clout chasing, I'm only here for the likes. And then her character reveals things later on that makes me like her even less.
Yeah.
So I was having a hard time with her immediately. And I felt like as they're climbing the ladder, you mentioned, there's so many cutaways of bolts coming loose. I'm like, okay, we get it. Something bad is going to happen. I get it. And we get up there, and then it felt like when there was just so many lapses in logic to me. I was getting frustrated with these girls. There's things like they get to the top of this tower, they're stuck there. They have one flare that they find, right? It's getting dark. They both have cell phones, and I'm going, why don't you have that flashlight on? Why are you not trying to get attention from the town nearby with a light? Things like this
Yeah,
just kind of.
I mean, there wasn't much of a town that was nearby,
Right.
Other than the diner.
There was a between the dialogue and I was hoping for a lightning strike at one point. Just take him out.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. There's
Also,
a lot of that.
What was Jeffrey Dean Morgan doing in this movie? What was the purpose of him coming in for 3 minutes of screen time?
It was very small.
I'm expecting at some point, like, okay, the Jeffrey Dean Morgan, he's a pretty well-known actor. You've got him in here for something. And we didn't. I don't know if
He was the big name.
owed a favor to somebody.
He was the big name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I felt this movie shared DNA with a movie that I actually saw the name pop up in the trailer, so I had noticed that before. It shared DNA with the movie 47 Meters Down.
Well, I think this Scott Mann did that
Did
movie.
he?
Yeah. I'm
That
pretty
movie
sure
felt
he
very
did.
similar to me, only under the water instead of in
Right,
the sky.
right,
And
right.
characters that I didn't root for, that I was rooting for sharks in that movie. And I was rooting for high winds in this one. Also, I will say, I told you before the show, I have a deathly fear of birds, and there's a lot of vulture scenes in here that
it's
I was
pretty-
having.
There's some
a hard
horror
time
elements that are in this film.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time staring at my bucket.
But
of
you
popcorn.
did you feel like queasy at all while watching this? I mean,
Just at
are you
first.
good with heights?
Yeah, I am.
Are you? Okay.
I was more impressed, like especially that first big reveal when they look down. You know, I like that. But yeah, I'm kind of okay with heights, so it didn't really like get me.
I mean, I was driving home. I saw this last night, and I was driving home, and there was a TV tower in the distance, and I looked up at it as I was driving, and I started getting queasy just looking at that.
Are we climbing towers later?
No. I mean, the movie works as a whole if you accept the situation that these two are in and you know all the stupid things that happen and that they obviously didn't have any backup plan.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think they would tell somebody, hey, we're going on this climb.
Right,
If we don't get back,
That's the other thing. And then
maybe you need to check on us.
there's a twist with about 15 minutes left in the movie.
Yeah.
That I was like, this movie doesn't deserve that twist.
Yeah.
I was frustrated by that one, but all right. Let's go to the scores. Fall. Sir, what did you give
Well,
Fall?
I gave it 3 stars.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, I mean, I was on the edge of my seat pretty much through most of it, but if I didn't have a fear of heights before, I have it now. I really do.
All right. Yeah, it just didn't work for me. I think I don't like this filmmaker now that I find out he also did 47 Meters Down, because that was my least favorite film of 2017.
Was it really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I really didn't like that movie, and this shares a lot of that. I ended up giving this 1 star.
Ooh.
I was checking my watch through a good chunk of this movie, so mixed bag of scores on this one. Let's go to what else we have on the marquee this week. I went and saw a film. It's the new A24 film called Bodies, Bodies, Bodies from director Helen Rain. It stars a cast of young, they're being called Zillennials, Generation Z, 20-something-year-old friends who are throwing a hurricane party at the mansion of one of their families. We follow Sophie, who is played by Amanda Stenberg, and her new girlfriend, B, played by Maria Bakalova. We follow them to this party. Sophie has been apart from the friend group for quite some time, and we find out as the film goes along that she's been trying to get sober. And her girlfriend, B, is meeting everyone for the first time, which is a bit daunting because this is an old friend group who have a lot of secrets and inside jokes. And B is... I believe from Russia as well, so there's a cultural barrier, all this stuff. These are all affluent kids who have known each other forever, and as the storm starts to brew, they decide to play the game Bodies, 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 which is similar to the game Mafia or Clue or any number of these party games, which one person is the killer and the group has to decide who the killer is before all the bodies have piled up. However, one of them actually turns up dead, and it quickly goes from a fun party into a game of life or death. And they have to figure out who in this group is actually killing their friends. And The game, Bodies, 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 is about lying to your friends, and we find out that this is a group of friends who lie to each other all the time. And they're running around in the dark as the hurricane knocks out the power, accusing each other of being a real-life killer. There are two people who are basically outsiders to this group who are meeting the group for the first time, and that's kind of intimidating. The character of B, as I said. And then there's also Lee Pace playing Greg, who is a Generation X guy who is dating one of the girls, Alice, played by Rachel Sennett. And he's kind of being treated as the old guy in the group. He doesn't understand how these young kids talk, what they're talking about. He's the butt of all the jokes. And they're both kind of out of their elements. And it turns into this whodunit thriller. You naturally have to have an outsider who would be the first one to point fingers at, right? And lots of red herrings in this movie. And it's a lot of friends who are really quick to turn on each other, really quick to use secrets and past mistakes as a way to justify accusing them of being a murderer. And I don't know, it's being billed as like the Zillennial Scream, and it feels a lot like the original Scream movie as far as the age of this cast. You have Pete Davidson in here who's doing his Pete Davidson thing. And that's, I think that...
Isn't that what he usually does?
He does.
Yeah.
And it works for some, it doesn't work for others. Your mileage may vary with that. There's some interesting characters. The character of Emma, played by Chase Sewell Wonders, who I've never seen before. She was really enjoyable in this. And character of Jordan, played by Mahia Harold. They're all enjoyable enough characters. They all have their quirks to them. And it feels like it kind of turns into a Mean Girls situation about halfway through the movie, as now it's as more and more people start dying. It's time to reveal everyone's secrets, and it's bratty rich kids who are using class struggle with some of the folks who aren't affluent. And I don't know, it's interesting. I've been reading some things about it. The filmmaker says, kind of wanted to deal more with the glossiness of fake friendships, and this generation, they're not allowed. The internet goes out right away. What am I going to do without my phone? And it kind of feels very similar to the character in Fall of how social media comes into play.
Do you consider this to be a slasher movie?
It is. It is a slasher movie. It plays out like a lot of movies like Ready or Not or Scream. But what's really interesting, I felt like, okay, I know where this movie's going. I've seen this movie a few times in different iterations. And I thought that they were fairly smart in how they turned this movie into a different direction with about 20, 25 minutes left. And it felt like a turn that they had earned. It felt like a turn that made sense and was really smart. And it kind of bumped up my score towards the end because I felt like I didn't know what was going on towards the end. And good young actresses who I think we're going to see a lot of in the near future. And there's some gory parts. There's some wild kills in here. Some pretty brutal stuff. And Maria Bakalova, who again plays B, she was Oscar nominated last year for the Borat movie.
Oh, that's right.
She was the young girl in that. That's the only other thing I've seen her in. She was kind of interesting in this. I'm kind of curious about her because she kind of plays a similar character.
Okay.
So I'm curious if she has any range to her. But I enjoyed Bodies quite a bit.
Sounds like it's a slasher movie with some brains to it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's it. And kind of follows with most A24.
I still won't watch
horror movies. Not your cup of tea.
Not my thing, no.
But I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I ended up giving it 3.5 out of 5 stars.
Oh, okay.
It's in theaters, and right now, if you look in the theaters, you see there's not a whole lot to go check out. Yeah. So if you like some slasher movies, I would recommend this one. Let's turn from the movie theaters to what we saw on the small screens for our streaming spotlight. You saw a film. What do we have?
Yeah, this is a documentary. It's called The Princess, and it's on HBO Max. And this is a British documentary about Diana, Princess of Wales. It's directed by Ed Perkins. And this is being released pretty close to the 25th anniversary of her tragic death, which occurred on August 31st, 1997. She died at the age of 36. Now, I know that you're probably saying to yourself, Not another film about Princess Diana. Yeah, there's been a lot of documentaries. I've seen most of them.
Yeah.
And of course, you got The Crown, you got the movie Spencer. I really disliked that. There was Diana the musical. I didn't see that.
I heard terrible things about that.
Yeah, but this documentary is a little bit different. It consists mostly of archival audio and video footage. There's not a narrator. There's no talking heads that try to bring everything into context.
I like that.
It's pretty much just a journey through her life on film, starting from the time of those early moments when she was trailed by cameras, when the news got out about her royal courtship with Prince Charles, to the aftermath of her death in 1997. There's footage from news reports, amateur videos from the general public, interviews with Charles and Diana both together and separately. You see clips from British talk shows. You hear excerpts from British call-in radio broadcasts where people debated the state of their marriage and their characters. I read where for 6 months, Ed Perkins, the director, watched footage for 8 to 12 hours a day.
Wow.
I mean, there's so much of this out there, I guess. And I was pretty amazed at the editing in this film and how it was able to tell this story. You see footage, for example, there's one of those royal family experts who says, yeah, once they get married, the paparazzi activity is going to stop. Well, obviously that didn't happen. There's one kind of fairly disturbing home video clip. I don't know how the director got this, but it shows a group of young American guys. They're playing cards with the TV on, and the news report comes on that says that Princess Diana was seriously injured. Mm-hmm. And then these guys start making jokes about it. And then the report comes on the TV that she died, and of course you see that the mood in the room suddenly changes, and obviously nobody's joking about it anymore, and you see the looks of shock in their faces. It's footage like that that I think for me made this documentary fairly unique. I mean, most of the footage of Diana and Charles is nothing new. A lot of it you've seen before. But there's also a lot of footage that shows the media's obsession with Princess Diana, the public's obsession. I read something once that said that the British they're famously rational, they're hard-headed, but when it came to the royal family, they're pretty much insane.
Yeah.
And
I mean, she was like the most photographed woman in the world.
Yeah, and you see a lot of that in this documentary, and some of it's kind of cringy. There's nothing in the documentary about her life prior to her engagement with Prince Charles. I mean, that was a smart move on the part of the producers. We've seen all that before. But I think, not having a narrator and no talking head experts coming on means, nobody in the film is trying to provide any explanations. They're not trying to provide any opinions to you. The film pretty much leaves it up to you, the viewer, to decide for yourself.
I like that.
So
it doesn't try and
how she was treated.
It's not
Charles
trying to create a narrative.
There's a narrative through the footage that's all pieced and edited together. But I think it lets you decide, how we as members of the public, what our relationship to Diana, why were we so obsessed with her? And I think it works to flip the focus onto the public and our relationship to celebrity.
Yeah. I mean, that's literally what killed her.
Yeah. And so I think it's, I've seen pretty much all the other documentaries. My wife is just big into the royal family, so whenever something like on them comes on, we got to watch it.
Yeah.
But this one I thought was unique. It was different, and I think it's worth checking out. It really is something that's different from what's out there right now.
Where was this? Where did you watch this?
HBO Max.
Excellent. And in ballpark, how long was this?
About an hour 40.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Goes pretty quick.
It's interesting how she is one of those characters. We had the Elvis film earlier this year, and we had the Beatles Get Back last year. How there's this group of these celebrities who just continue over decades to just transfix the public, and new generations of people are transfixed by him. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, there's some new stuff here, which I don't think I've ever seen before. There's one scene where she's in a hospital and she's observing a surgery. She's right there, and I don't know who they were operating on. Maybe it could have been somebody who was injured by a landmine, which was one of the causes that she had to ban those. Yeah. But they got the camera right on her, and she looks up at one point and gives this look of, "Why are you filming me during this?"
That's awesome.
That's
great.
But that's the way it was.
All right, what did you end up giving The Princess?
I gave it 4.5 stars. I think it's probably the best Princess Diana documentary I've seen to date. I'm sure there will be more of these to come. But I think this is one worth seeking out.
Excellent. I am going to check that out over on the HBO Max. Our last streaming film this week, we turned over to Netflix for something a little less serious. It is Day Shift from director J.J. Perry. Stars Jamie Foxx. His character is Bud Jablonski. Bud is a blue-collar guy, a pool cleaner who has a bit of a secret. He goes out and hunts vampires during the day for their teeth. In order to get the cash he needs to provide for his family. He's having issues at home. He has an ex-wife who is really just tired of him. He has a daughter who really just needs him around. And he needs to come up with $10,000 in a week. We've got a ticking clock. He needs $10,000 in 1 week to save his ex-wife's home, pay for the tuition of his daughter's school so they don't move away from him. And $10,000 is a lot of vampire teeth. So the first half of this film is him kind of trying to get back into the Vampire Hunters Union after being kicked out years before. And luckily he has a sponsor played by Snoop Dogg, who is his mentor and sponsor, trying to get him back into the union so he can go out and get some good paying vampire hunting jobs. He is given a probationary status and assigned a rookie who has to go out with him and report back to him. This rookie is a guy named Seth, played by Dave Franco. And Seth is a rookie who doesn't want to hunt vampires. He just wants to sit behind a desk and do his accounting job. He's freaked out by blood and gore. And this unlikely duo goes out a-hunting and stumbles upon a whole den of vampires that they, along with a brother duo, must battle against. And it's a plot that feels like it's from another movie. There's a very powerful vampire who is hunting Bud and his family to seek revenge for a kill earlier in this film. It's like a serious tone in the middle of this movie. And to me, this vampire hunter, what was her name? I can't turn my page over. Her name was Audrey San Fernando, while they're in the San Fernando Valley.
Okay.
Played by Carla Souza. She is out seeking revenge, and that part of the film to me felt like super thin, and I wasn't sure why it was in there. But the film has a great 90s rap soundtrack that I'm sure Snoop Dogg helped provide. Some over-the-top performances that resembled, to me, those in a lot of other B movies like Idle Hands and some other kind of trash B horror movies. But I enjoyed Jamie Foxx. I'm a sucker for comedy horror. Your Shaun of the Deads. You're like, I'm a sucker for your Army of Darkness and Evil Dead 2 type of things. Setting it in the San Fernando Valley reminded me a lot of Lost Boys, set in the valley as well. It's kills. It's really a standard action comedy where you have action, kill, goofy joke, reset, do it all over again. And it's Jamie Foxx and it's Dave Franco constantly peeing his pants. How's that sound to you? I know this is your kind of movie.
Okay, so Jamison, I remember the good old days when I was a kid. On Saturday afternoons, I would walk down to the local theater downtown Beaver Dam from my dad's shoe store to catch the Saturday matinee, which we don't do anymore.
I used to do that, yeah.
On some Saturdays, there would be a Dracula movie playing starring Christopher Lee. Remember him?
Yeah, absolutely.
And when Dracula bit someone, you would see 2 nice, clean holes in the neck with a little bit of blood. that was what we had, and darn it, we were good with that. We were satisfied with that. I was so happy to see this movie end. I mean, for me, it was comedy, gore, comedy, gore,
Yep.
comedy, gore. I mean, once you saw that first fight with the vampire, which opened the film, all the rest were the same. There wasn't much different about each of them. It was over-the-top, gory mayhem. For me, it was just kind of mind-numbing after a while.
Yeah. I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying.
Yeah, and once you saw there was an ex-wife and a daughter, gee, I wonder what's going to happen with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are the vampires going to find out about those two? I wonder. Yeah. I mean, I guess the only thing that was different for me was this Vampire Hunters Union.
I enjoy that.
Which was new. But the one question I had is, if there's vampires running around Los Angeles, does this mean that the city completely shuts down at night?
I heard the freaks come out at night. I don't know. I
mean, does everybody just kind of
because if they wear sunscreen, they can go out during the day in this movie.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I had questions throughout the movie. I mean, apparently there's friendly vampires too.
Sure.
I mean, I didn't care if these questions were answered or not.
The movie didn't care either.
No, it didn't. I mean, to me, this is another example of a big-name Netflix movie. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of thought goes into it, and the big name, which in this case is Jamie Foxx, he cashes the big check.
We've gotten a lot of these this year. A lot of these big name, big payday, middling results on Netflix movies.
The best part of the movie was Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, he's great.
And he's not even in it that much.
Yeah, he just kind of pops in, steals the scene, checks out. I have a feeling you and I have different scores. I don't disagree with anything you said, but for some reason it works a little bit for me.
It was just there wasn't any creativity to this at all.
No, like I said, it felt like a lot of movies I'd seen before. And for me, the tone shift was weird when you get a real serious tone with the vampire she's coming, I'm going to kill your family. And then you have Dave Franco doing like Dick Van Dyke slapstick comedy with his head. I'm like, wait a minute, what is going on?
Yeah.
But, yeah. All right, what did you end up giving Day Shift?
I gave it 1 star.
Uh-oh.
I'd rather watch Count Chocula.
Hey, it's that time of year with Count Chocula and Boo Berry and all the Fruit Brute. They're all coming back, and I'll watch a show starring them as well. Like I said, I enjoy comedy horror. I recognize that it's not great, but it worked for me in parts, so I end up giving this 3 stars.
Really? Okay.
This is like you and me with Fall. We've just flip-flopped 1s and 3s.
Yeah.
Sounds like we know our genres now. So, all right, let's take a look ahead at what is coming soon. We are looking at the weekend of August 25th, I believe. Yes, where we have a few movies in theaters and streaming. First, in theaters, we have a film called Breaking, which is a crime thriller about a Marine who is trying to reintegrate into the real world and facing mental and emotional challenges. Stars John Boyega and the late Michael K. Williams. Over on Amazon Prime, we have a film called Samaritan about a 13-year-old boy who discovers that a superhero that was thought to be long gone for 20 years may be the recluse who is living next door to him. This stars the kid who plays Ashtray in the series Euphoria, and Sylvester Stallone as the titular character. Over on Netflix, we have a film called Me Time, which is a comedy about a dad living his dream weekend without his family and just broing it out with his buddy. Stars Mark Wahlberg, Kevin Hart, Regina Hall. I think this one might fit into a description we just talked about.
Yeah.
We also have a film called 3,000 Years of Longing, which is a fantasy romance drama about a lonely scholar who travels to Istanbul, discovers a djinn who offers her 3 wishes in exchange for his freedom. Stars Tilda Swinton and Idris Elba. And then lastly, we also have a film called The Invitation in theaters about a young woman who's courted and swept off her feet only to realize that she is part of a gothic conspiracy. Ooh, it sounds creepy. Those are all the films of August 25th. We want to thank our sponsor, Marcus Theaters, who provides the Dream Loungers for us to watch these movies, good, bad, or otherwise. Mr. Sabatke, I want to thank you again for joining me.
Oh, thank you.
And I want to let people
Glad to do
know
it.
that if they want to get some of the best football coverage in around, we're going to be calling some football.
Yep.
So tune in to this station to get your coverage of the Sun Prairie West Wolves starting this week. So check that out. Next week, I'm going to be talking about films like Beast, Orphan, First Kill, and who knows what else with the great Dan Presser joining me. So tune in for that. But until next week, I'm Jamison.
And I'm Steve.
Thanks for watching.